Welcome back to our coverage from the Coligny 200, the opening round of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Series for 2019, brought to you by Econo Petroleum, alongside RTV as always. Plenty of machinery to check out in the pits, new drivers, new co-drivers, and a brand new layout of a track. Before the race though, we caught up with Ernest Roberts to talk about his vehicle.
Hi, my name is Ernest Roberts. I'm from Redline Nissan Racing Team. I'm here at Coligny. It looks like the rain is going to be quite fast. Luckily the wind is blowing, so it looks like it's going to be a fast one. My wife joined me, she's going to drive the side-by-side, so I also want to wish her luck.
B27! B27!
Yeah, B27 was in the house, as was the P7, the Tupperware car, as it's affectionately known. A ton of side-by-sides as well, one of the biggest growth categories on the tour in 2018. 7 of the side-by-sides will line up in 2019. Flip, the Master of Ceremonies and the Master of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Tour, giving the drivers, co-drivers and crews all an idea of what they were to face, and also a time to chase down. The fastest lap thrown down on the bikes was Marius Venter. He went out and did a 36.19, so the cars knew exactly what they were in for. Most of the cars, certainly the guys running inside of the main categories, would be able to chase down that time and beat the bikes. A good spread of entries across all the categories as well, with the Class T's predicted to be some of the fastest out there, but a ton of vehicles also in all the special vehicles, side-by-side buggies, and the G-Class official side-by-sides. So the off-season and prep time was over. It was time, once again in 2019, to go racing. With Wolf Peter Fumfai officially retired, the gate was open now for another superstar to come through in the B-Class. For the national classes, this was the Class T production vehicles. It was Vorst Prinsloo and Kenneth Venter that would open up the racing account in the V8 Mustang-powered Ford Ranger. T41 would have the unenviable task of having to open up the track, meaning that the chasers would potentially have the advantage, certainly in the opening lap. The T29 of Johann Strauss and Alzon Venter would take up the chase, and they would have some clear tracks to follow, as long as Vos got it right on lap 1. Third car out would be Philip and Xander de Vries in the G4, the first of 7 entries for the Can-Am side-by-sides. The Mavericks coming in hot over the last couple of seasons. A ton of prep going into these vehicles as well, and a prediction of almost 10 entries come the end of the season. Johan Besson, the first of the B-Class, alongside Peter Kruger in the B11, would be chasing down a top 3 finish come the end of play. His aggressive driving style certainly going to be coming into play and showing some benefits towards the end of the event. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Turon putting in some excellent off-season work on their B22, the vehicle they've raced to success for the last couple of seasons, the only Subaru-powered machine out there. Sifi van Skalkwyk and Arthur Croshaw in the B100. They took a couple of wins, certainly towards the latter half of last year. The Bug was charging hard and walking away with championship honours as well. The B100 would once again challenge for threats, and if it was more technical, certainly be a threat for a top 5 finish. The P47 of Giel Nel and Ben Janssen would ease their way once again into the fray, with just the 4 entries coming in for the P-Class at the opening round of the series. Tight and tech at the beginning, but as the lap went on, the loop would open up, and with still 200 kilometers of racing, it was all still to play for. The B27 that had a massive support crew in the pits, Jason Mitchell and Butter Robertson, make a bit of a hash of the early part of the running, lose around about 10 to 15 seconds. That would be one mistake that may haunt them come the end of the day's racing. For the F category into the production vehicles, Andre Vermeulen, Junior and Senior swapping seats this time around, with Junior on the wheel and Senior on the notes. Don't you just know it's Junior on the wheel, getting nice and vinty in the early corners. Jaco Esterhuizen and Anton Els in the B12 would challenge for a top 10 placing come the end of the day. If they made the first couple of corners, that was. Lots of crews getting a little bit caught out by the tight and technical nature of the early couple of turns. Once again, they would have to figure all those problems out as the track opened up. Colin Croshaw and Marina van Schalkwyk, the C-Class stalwarts, would once again go up against the Balho Bug to see who would walk away with Class C honours. Esterhuizen and Els now not benefiting from that high start, stuck in the dust. Johan Gerber and Peter Fenter in the Tupperware car, the P7, the longest nose out there in off-road racing. All the weight on the back wheels, bit of a challenge in the tech, but when it gets wide open it can fly. P58 of Hein and Reinhard Engelbrecht, putting aside their motorbike skills and becoming fully fledged off-road car racers. This is their second season of racing behind the wheel. Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief in the B39. The crew from Rustenburg coming into this event as a possible favourite for the win in category. The B-Class honours always a big carrot for everyone to chase down. Rudy Muller and Gerrit Stein also working hard on one of the older vehicles out there, the B40. Still looks like it's had some nice off-season prep. A lot of new panels, a little bit of suspension work going on. A bit more work on the steering lock though next time, lads. Yeah, the early tech really challenging the open wheelers. Johnny and Ethan John Walker getting one of the older machines out there, and Ethan coming off two-wheelers to sit beside Dad for the first time in 2019. The Bushwalker, I absolutely love that vehicle. A version of the Baja Bug. Barry Kotzer and Given Ngabeni. They've been in the chair together for about a season and a half now, and the D5 will be challenging for D-Class honours once again. Nishal Barner, the man that would be king. With Wolf Peter Fumfai stepping out, Nishal is now the flag waver for the side-by-sides, but in this case, the single-seater category of the Bs. Lawrence Haasbroek and Johan van Rensburg in the E44. Once again, just the one entry for the E-Class. We'll expect bigger numbers as the season gets longer. For now, they're out there doing what they can, trying to challenge a little bit further up the order and beat out the Class Ds, the Class Fs, maybe some of the Class Ts as well. Nalda and Elisma Pieterse in the G97. One of the taller Can-Ams as well. Not the Maverick this time around. This was the first format of those. And then Ernest Roberts and Stewie Creevy. We saw these guys in the pits. They've had a little bit of time towards the end of last season to get used to their vehicle, and now they are putting as much mileage and seat time in to the big T1 Nissan Navara as they can. Wife Elise Roberts this time on the wheel, and James Trollope on the notes, calling the navigation for the G7. Good luck to Elise as she goes on out there into full attack mode as one of 7 entries from the side-by-sides. Clarence Visserkerk and Jacques Kruger benefiting from the overshoot there from Elise Roberts and James Trollope. They'll figure out the notes and they'll figure out the speed as the day gets longer. All these cars then on for a predicted 4-lapper race. The average race speed of around about 14 minutes across the categories. Expect to see the first lap as the slowest one, and the majority of the cars will go faster and faster as the day goes on. Renaud de Villiers and Andre Dupria in the P37, trying to get themselves up the order inside of the top 10. Gideon Jacobs and Gideon Reinicke. Jacobs, famous for quad racing, this time around doing double duty. Unfortunately having problems on his quad on lap number 1. We wish him a better day on the side-by-sides as he goes to chase down his first full-time side-by-side race. Dierwold van Breda and Johan de Toy in the G10. Some new names with a fully skinny, race-prepped Can-Am Maverick underneath them. They would be a big threat a little bit later on in the race, catching a lot of the big crews napping. Lawrence Boyson had a new navigator in the form of Willy Feldman. Willy with more probably experience than anyone else out there in the Africa Off-Road Series, normally on the wheel, and unfortunately the notes, maybe not his forte just yet. Catches after the break to see if them and the rest of the crews can get better and faster as the day goes on.
I got a billboard from a casino. Is this the original El Rey? Yes, indeed. The place burned to the ground 50 years ago. I found it lying in the desert. Wow.
Rick around?
No.
Hey, he's not here. I got a little project I was hoping to talk to him about. The love tester.
Ah, all right.
We can do that.
You sure?
Oh, we got this.
I usually stick to picking, but I have no problem filling in for Rick on this one.
What is this? Holy crap.
Run!
Why didn't you call me? I think we're gonna take a bath.
Oh, was that off?
Yeah.
Join me, Michael Porter, on Find a Franchise, a brand new series on Business Day TV, where we showcase some of the top franchises in the country, meet the people behind these organizations, and highlight some of the opportunities that you can get your hands on. And if you'd like to feature your franchise on the show, contact Andre Stadler on the email shown on the screen. That's Find a Franchise, only on Business Day TV, DSTV Channel 412.
The Nürburgring. With a length of more than 20 kilometers, the awe-held racetrack called the Green Hell leads through the Eiffel Forest. Opened in 1927, the Nürburgring became famous as the most difficult track in the world. Since then, the Eiffel roller coaster lures daring racers to compete with it. For more than 4 decades, the track has hosted its own championship, the Endurance Championship Nürburgring, shortened to VLN. Through the years, the VLN has developed, starting from a merger of motorsport clubs and hobby racers into a professional championship for beginners and professionals up to factory teams. And the 2018 season is characterized by full grids and fascinating races. 955 drivers from 35 nations start in the 9 races during the season, and each edition run with an average of 150 GT and touring cars on the grid.
So with the formalities of lap number 1 out of the way, it was once again time to pick up on the action as we continued with the Coligny 200, the opening round of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Tour for 2019, brought to you by Econo Petroleum and RTV. Vos Prinsloo and Kenneth Venter were charging hard, but starting to get closed down by the rest of the categories as they all figured out how the track was running. One of the fastest on lap 1 was the hooting, loud and roaring Ernest Roberts and Stewie Creevy in the T1 Nissan Navara, charging hard and getting super comfortable in the 333 vehicle as they try to chase down their first win of the 2019 Tour. The P47 of Giel Nel and Ben Janssen had to move over and quickly to allow this charging Roberts and Creevy to come on through, dusting up the rest of the track and trying to now chase down on Vos Prinsloo for the overall win. Jason Mitchell and Butter Robertson in the B27, working hard in the early laps, even though they had some problems on lap number 1 in the early tech. As soon as the track started to open up, they really found their groove and started pushing on hard, especially in the tech, which looked like it was going to be their downfall in the early laps. But no, the setup on the B27 was good for Mitchell and Robertson. Hein and Reinhard Engelbrecht in the P58, who only got into this vehicle at the end of last season, were starting to really get themselves nice and comfortable and challenge for a win in the P58. At this stage, they were sitting in a very solid number 2 spot. In the B class for the B20, Nishal Bana was charging hard, but really battling just with flat out pace to try and get on through some of the traffic. He would be on for a predicted top 10 finish. At this stage, even he didn't know where that was going to be. The B40 though, of Rudy Muller and Gerrit Steyn, were charging hard also to try and break into single digits, sitting at the moment outside of a top 10. Race organizer Flip Feldman doing a great job to try and slow the pace of the lap right in the middle of it, taking the drivers through some of the denser bushveld before they went out into full top-end high-speed racing. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron in the B22 did a pretty decent job in the early laps, but eventually would suffer a almost catastrophic puncher, sending them down the order. Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief in the B39 by this stage were the first and fastest of the Class Bs, putting Jason Mitchell and Johan Besson way down into the number 2 and 3. This was going to be the team to watch going forward into the rest of 2019. For the F category, just the one entry of Andre Vermeulen, Junior and Senior. Junior on the wheel, Senior on the notes, having what seemed to be a bit of an issue out there on course. Or were they just stopping to greet their fans? Jaco Esthuizen getting charged now by the C100 of Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Schalkwyk. The top ladies of Africa Off-Road Championship Racing still waving the flag and doing a great job of it. Lawrence Boyson and Willie Feldman with a little bit of bits and bobs missing from their vehicle, but were setting the track on fire as they threw down the fastest lap overall. A 36.57. Not quite as fast as the bikes, but not far off. The A30 was still absolutely powering and throwing down the big V8 power. Clarence Verskaeke and Jacques Kruger in the G11 trying desperately to get themselves into a top 3 placing on for a predicted possible top 5 at this stage. Renan de Villiers and Andre Duprier at one of the distant Marshall points as they headed across the road on the P37. They would eventually go on to get themselves into an amazing top 3 placing. The P7 of Johan Gerber and Peter Venter in the Tupperware car having to step down onto P4. Vos Prinsloo and Kenneth Venter doing what they could to try and hang on to what was left of the race. The P41 were coming under increasing pressure now from Ernest Roberts and Stewie Creevy. Philip and Xander de Vries had got themselves into the lead now of the Class G category, putting Dewald van Breda and Johan de Toy down into the number 2 spot, although van Breda and de Toy had charged through the field to get up into that position. Problems for Johnny and Ethan Walker. The C7 would need a little bit more prep time, as would Johann Strauss and Alzon Venter. Always going to be the case at the early part of the season. Mechanical gremlins, take them at round number 1, and hopefully they won't show up for the rest of the year. Nalda and Elisma sounding like the police as they chase down Giel Nel and Ben Janssen, making a sweet pass and good elbows in move there for Nel and Janssen, allowing the charging side by side to just peel on through. This pairing would do an incredible job to eventually get themselves up into a creditable 3rd place on category. For Nel and Janssen, sounding like they'd lost a couple of gears along the way, they were just trying to get the finish done early on in the year. For Sifu van Schalkwyk and Arthur Croshaw in the B100, it was looking like another win to open up their racing accounts as they hooted and high-fived their way around the incredible Coligny 200 circuit. Solid lap times as always, and building the pace lap per lap for the Baja Bug. The flat tire that eventually was almost the undoing of the Subaru crew, and that was Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron. They did eventually get themselves fixed and back to the pits, but they took a ton of penalties and lost a lot of time along the way. But no matter what, they did bring it home. The side-by-side of Van Breda and de Toy in the G10, a real big surprise package and getting themselves inside of a top 5. Elise Roberts and James Trollope in the G7, also challenging for a top 5, eventually 4th place finish for them. As the day got on, Elise Roberts on the driving and James Trollope on the notes got faster and more confident, and with it came the speed. For Barry Kutzer and Given Ngabeni, the single entry into the Ds, the D5 would come through with a nice time of 2 laps completed. Unfortunately, it was a DNF after that with some terminal mechanical problems. seeing them bow out after just 2 laps of a predicted 4-lap race distance. For junior and senior, the Familians were doing a great job, and they brought home with the F1 in the number 1 position, and also inside of a top 15 overall across all categories. They'll be happy with that. Nice work on the wheel, junior. At the flag then, it was great to see all entries come home just as the big storm hit. Charging run coming in from Lawrence Boyson and Willie Feldman in the A30. They would go on to take the fastest lap time, as we said, with a 36.57 for the cars. And Willie Feldman, his calling definitely helping out the speed of Lawrence Boyson in the A30. He took the class win. In the B27, Jason Mitchell and Butter, they got a nice job going there for a 2nd place in category. Ernest Roberts and Stewie Creevy were almost unchallenged as they dropped the hammer hard on the race and the competition to get the win in the Class T's and the overall win as well on timing. Clarence Busqueka and Jacques Kruger in the G11 would be credited a nice and tasty number 4 finish to end off their first attack of the 2019 tour. For Andre Vermeulen Jr. and Senior, no issues in the big F1, confirmation of their creditable class win. Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief setting the track on fire. The B39 absolutely pinned as the heavens opened. They'll be happy to draw a line under that one with a win in class. Vos Prinsloo and Kenneth Venter, another crew that picked up their vehicle late on in 2018. 2nd place in Class T. Also good points on the table. They'll be happy with that. The storm arriving just in the last few kilometers of the event. For the P58, Hein and Reinhard Engelbrecht, they did a nice job to get their first win of the tour as well, and their first win in Africa off-road racing. Congratulations, guys. Now you got to keep it up for the rest of the year. For Giel Nel and Ben Janssen, the P47 had some problems throughout the day, but still good enough to bring home a rock-solid 2nd place finish on the class. Dewald van Breda and Johan de Toy were absolute chargers the whole way through the day, having an incredible laps 3 and 4 to bring home a number 2 finish. New names to watch out for. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Turon eventually fixing their front tire and bringing home a hot Scooby-Doo. Here's a breakdown of the classes then. Special Vehicle Class B, it was Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief beating out Jason Mitchell and Butter Robertson, with Johan Besson and Peter Kruger 3rd and 1st of the DNFs. In the Special A's, Lawrence Boyson alongside Willie Feldman doing a great job to get their win. In the Class C's, Colleen Croshaw and Marina van Skalkwijk, the first of the non-finishers in the Class C. For the Special Class P's, Hein and Reinhard Engelbrecht break their duck and they get their first win of the season ahead of Giel Nel and Ben Janssen, with Reinhard de Villiers and Andre Dupria in 3rd place. For the production classes, Class D, Barry Kotzer and Given and Gabeni get their win. In Class E, Lawrence Haasbroek and Johan van Rensburg. And Class F, the Familians, Junior and Senior, with Junior on the wheel this time. First win of the season for the Class Gs goes to Philip and Xander de Vries, beating out Dewald van Breda and Johan de Toy, with Elise Roberts and James Trollope rock solid in 3rd place. And for Class T, Ernest Roberts and Stewie Creevy beating out Vos Prinsloo and Kenneth Venter, with Johan Strauss and Elzon Venter unfortunately DNFing in their T29. So a big thanks to all of our racers that joined us for the first event, and our new sponsor, Econo Petroleum. We get ourselves locked and loaded and back to the workshop, ready for round 2 on the 23rd of February. Lichtenberg, the 200 awaits.